Back with you on a Wednesday, Josh and Sherrod live on your Chargers, Lakers, Toreros, and Aztecs station. Speaking of the Aztecs, the baseball team is in Vegas for the final series of the regular season, and then they come home to Tony Gwynn Stadium for the conference tournament. Our next guest is Mr. Padre himself, Hall of Famer, number 19, Tony Gwynn, the head coach for the Aztecs baseball team. Tony, always great to have you on the show. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Now, whenever we have a guest on the show, we say, how are you? But with you, it's a little different. We want a longer answer. How's your mind? How's your body? How's your health?
I'm doing really good. Sitting on a bus on the way to Vegas, though, but feeling good. And actually feeling really good. A little bit ahead of schedule, I think, right now. So life's good.
Wonderful. Hey, Tony, series with UNLV, then you're coming back to San Diego. How's morale right now? Despite the struggles that we've all read about and seen, how is morale with your club?
It's really good, honestly. I think the past 3 weeks we've probably played our best baseball. And offensively, I think we've kind of got things ironed out. Early in the year, defensively, we were not real good early. And I think we've gotten to the point where we pitch it and catch it pretty good every game now, and offensively things are starting to click in. It's kind of unfortunate it was coming down to the end of the season, but going into the tournament, you want to be playing your best baseball, and honestly, I think that's kind of where we are. We're playing pretty good, so morale's real good.
Tony, I read somewhere where you had a team meeting with your guys in your hotel room. You kind of asked them what was their approach at the plate, what they wanted to do. One player said, I want to pull the ball. You said, okay, then do it. One player said, I wanted to go the opposite way. You said, well, okay, then do it. Is there some type of frustration with you when you study batting a different way and maybe some of these younger guys can't see it that way, trying to impart your knowledge on a younger guy? Is that tough for you?
Well, the frustration comes from guys not having a game plan and sticking with it. They get up to the plate, and they go in with a game plan, and then they see one pitch or a couple of pitches that forces them to kind of change in midstream. So, that day in Utah, we got shut out 3-0. We had a whole bunch of pitches to hit. Guys just couldn't pull the trigger. So, decided to have a meeting after that game, and I wasn't going to let us leave until at least we had some conversation about their game plan and what they were trying to do. And it's funny, since that day, guys have been so much better and so much more relaxed at the plate that, actually I wish I had done it about what they have earlier. But sometimes, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I got sick in the fall, and the voice that they hear, during the season most of the time is fine, but I wasn't sick, I wasn't here. So, that apprehension, that tension that sometimes I think freshmen feel when they're trying to deal with their head coach, I think there was a lot of that. So I think that day we kind of ironed out a lot of things. And honestly, since that day, things have been so much better. Guys have been so much more relaxed. And it's a good thing, because I think, in order to hit, you can't have that kind of tension going through your mind at the plate. You got to kind of clear your mind and kind of focus on the baseball, and we've done a much better job with that here in the last 3 or so weeks.
I also think about, Tony, talking about how you're dealing with freshmen, you're trying to impart your knowledge on them. I have to imagine that for some of these guys, it's got to be almost a deer in headlights. I mean, you're dealing with Tony Gwynn right now, and you're talking about hitting, almost like you can't concentrate because you're just staring at one of the greatest hitters as you're talking to him.
Well, that's the other thing, is that the fall is for dealing with all of that stuff. And a lot of times you're right, they do. They get, they're more concerned with what I'm going to say instead of being concerned with what the result's going to be. And again, you kind of have to fight through that. You kind of have to kind of sift through that. Most of the time it happens with the fall. But in our case, a lot of that had to happen in the spring because it just wasn't well enough to be out here every day. And now that you come down nitty-gritty of our season, I think we're past that point, and because we are, I think we're playing this.
We're talking to Tony Gwynn. Tony, I went to San Diego State when your son, Tony Jr., was at San Diego State, and I went to the games. I saw this guy in the outfield, just incredible. I was a huge, huge fan, still am, when I watched the Dodgers, and he always seems happy, kind of like you, big smile on his face. But was he upset with how his Padres career ended?
I said yeah. Answer your question, yeah, I think so. I think this is strictly a dad talking, but he'd had a pretty good year the year before, and then they got a new general manager, and then and it's a typical thing that happens in baseball. When you get a new general manager, he usually gives himself a year to kind of see what they have, who the guys that can play, who are the guys that were questionable. Anthony just really picked a bad season to have a bad season. And, Jed's got to make decisions about the roster, what they need to do and how they need to do it. And, he's frustrated. He wasn't more frustrated than I was. But, Anthony realizes it's a business. He's been around the game his whole life, so I don't think that was an issue. I think he really would have loved an opportunity to show people that he was better than 220 or whatever he ended up hitting. But baseball, when he got released, his first thought was, God, I got to find a job, And when the Dodgers called, it was, hey, he was thrilled that they called. And it's been a good match for him, I think. He relates very well to the coaching staff and to the teammates. It's weird seeing him in that Dodger uniform, I can't lie, but
he looks good.
It's a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does. You're right, he does. He looks good. They love his defense, and he played well so far. So hopefully, he can be around for them.
Tony, what about the guys in this current roster right now for the Padres? I imagine that as you're calling games, you're kind of watching the bats, go by, and you see guys with the wrong approach or making outs. It maybe becomes frustrating for you because you can probably see where the adjustments have come. Does it come frustrating for you to kind of watch this team, the Padres, when they struggle?
It's not frustrating. It's just that you totally understand it because they got some young guys out there who are impressive, and it usually happens when you get off to a slow start and. You can hear the buzz around. People are wondering if this team is going to hit. The issue I have is playing in Petco Park. You can't use that as an excuse. I think their approach in that ballpark, you got all that room out there. Hit line drive. They work at every ballpark in America.
Right.
Don't worry about hitting the ball in the air. Hit the ball on the line and use the space and use it to your advantage. And I think eventually they figure that out. When I was in Arizona yesterday, those guys were thrilled that they were on the road because in their mind, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to have success on the road. But they go to Petco, and now that mindset changes a little bit. And that, to me, is going to be the issue that they're going to have to deal with. They're 7-14 at home, and they're over 500 on the road. And when they score runs, they usually have a good chance of winning. But at home, it just really struggles. So they're going to have to figure it out at home.
Aztecs getting ready for UNLV. We're talking to head coach and Hall of Famer Tony Gwynn. Tony, your job is to coach baseball and teach baseball, but I'm watching HBO Real Sports last night, and of course they had that piece on chewing tobacco. How tough is it to teach that aspect to these young men, to enlighten college kids on the dangers and realities of smokeless tobacco?
Well, I think the guys on my team have seen firsthand what happened, and in my case, I put myself in that situation, and I tell these guys this all the time. Doctors couldn't tell me if it was chewing tobacco or whatever that caused it, but I'm smart enough to figure out that it probably was. So I think that's had an impact on these guys. But you go across, not only in professional baseball, with college baseball, high school baseball, it's everywhere. And, people have to make those decisions. So when people ask me now, I just kind of tell them what I've had to go through. And you hope that they decide to make the right decision. But there's no question it's prevalent everywhere.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I was a kid, I thought it looked cool, and I think a lot of kids feel that way. What about to this day? Tony, do you still get the urge even to this day?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's addicting, too. And it's, there isn't a day that goes by where you don't crave it. Like, you just got to, it's a battle that I have to fight the rest of my life, probably. But you're right. Kids see the professionals, they see the big league guys do it, and they think that's part of the game. That's something that you have to do. and it's not. So, again, you hope guys make the right decision. I try to preach these guys to make them, to make the right ones, but ultimately it's a decision everybody has to make on their own.
Tony, just thinking about my own life, I have a mother who's dealing with breast cancer right now. She's doing a very good job with it, battling it. But when you're dealing with something that's just so serious like that, it kind of changes your perspective on life. And I know she's kind of changed a little bit. So how has your perspective on life changed a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. No question. It's definitely has changed. When it first happened, I was as negative as negative could be. And my wife really kind of got me to believe that go through all of this, everything's going to be fine on the other end, and but it's not until you go through it and you come out on the other end and you see the struggle that you got to go through, and you really have to be positive when you're going. It's so much tougher when you're negative, so you try to be positive, and then when you come out on the other end and everything seems to be okay, boy, it does change your perspective on everything. Mm-hmm. I used to go to sleep at night writing lineups, on scratch paper every day, and now it's not as bad. I still do it. It's just not as bad as it used to be because just having the opportunity to wake up every morning is more important than anything else. And you try to pass that along. You try to pass it along to these guys. These guys, my guys, think that I live and breathe baseball every single day. In a sense, I do, but I don't get upset as often as I used to. It's because of having gone through what I've gone through.
Man, the legendary Tony Gwynn getting ready for Vegas, and he's back at his own stadium, Tony Gwynn Stadium, for the conference tournament. 15-time All-Star head coach of those Aztecs. Tony, we really do appreciate the time. It's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. We're wishing you the best.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it, guys.